So is this anything like the talk shows that you did on your victory tour?
Nope, not really.
All right, so
a little bit different. Yeah.
So you did what, the Today Show?
Today's show.
What'd you do? Name them, run them off.
It's funny, I'm wearing my wedding ring because I went on The View, actually, without my wedding ring. And my wife's like, we're going to have to resize that thing, get that thing back on. I did The View, Today's Show, CBS Morning, yeah, all the stuff. It was wild, totally wild.
It was wild. So I always feel like it's one of those things that you got to go down to New York, which is like a whole epic trip unto itself. Yeah. You're into the studio, you got makeup, right? You got to do the makeup, green screen, all the stuff, and then you sit down and it's like done in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, actually. I the day that I was on the CBS morning show, I was in the green room with Sean White, which was kind of cool.
Oh, there you go. And he's like, hey, who are you, bro? And
yeah, pretty much. And I was like, I'm just the guy whose segment is before you.
Some kind of fun.
What a good guy. What a good guy.
So is that, that's kind of put you in this celebrity status that you're technically there, right? So when you walk around the streets of Barrington, there are people like, hey, Charlie, what's up?
The mean streets?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you say so, but definitely a little bit different. Life's different than it was a year ago, that's for sure, for a host of reasons. But yeah, I mean, it's in other ways, it's not much different at all. So just kind of trying to live it out.
Incognito style. Actually, that's very Bristolian, isn't it? The incognito.
That's correct.
It's kind of it's the Bristol way, the Bristol Mafia way. You would know. All right, so I got a pile of questions here, and eventually we're gonna get to it.
Let's roll. Fireside chat.
Yeah. So these are. Take a sip. Thanks for Mount Gay for the talk. Anybody go to the back if you need a refill.
It's actually truth serum.
And that's why there's more.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I was actually pretty shocked at this because I did have to look up. Anybody want to guess his age?
28.
28.
My man. Yeah. 32? Wow.
41.
Damn close. 30 freaking 9. I mean, like, I keep saying it 3 times around the planet, done a lot more, but like, holy smokes, I think, I was just starting to be like, I should probably take this serious now.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am right now.
39, that's crazy. Current occupation?
Unemployed.
Sweet.
Yeah,
How much do you get paid to be unemployed?
I don't know. I don't know. Not enough. So working on that. Got a little runway and just trying to kind of figure out what's next.
So the LinkedIn profile says open to work.
LinkedIn profile, you need the password. I'm not a big LinkedIn guy, but maybe we'll be soon.
All right. Mount Gay, today we're drinking, looks like Mount Gay and tonic, but Mount Gay and fill in the blank. What's your go-to?
Yeah, probably tonic.
Tonic, simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lime, lemon?
Lime?
Lime, okay. He's pretty standard. Your morning wake-up time?
5:30.
5:30.
Yeah.
Every day. Like, okay.
Pretty much. I got 2 kids, 6 and 8, and if I don't get up before them, it's pretty hard to do anything constructive. So I like an hour to myself in the morning.
Gotcha. All right, one quiet hour, which might be the answer to the next one. Like, happiness is fill in the blank.
Waking up at 5:30 in the morning with a cup of coffee and just kind of having some time to think and plan the day. Be, appreciative. Say Dunkin'? No, it's homebrew. Yeah, homebrew.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dunkin' homebrew?
I don't go out to Dunkin' Donuts. I brew my own coffee.
So you've had a lot of time to have this mental space, right? The race ended last summer, and where you kind of you had your time off in the wintertime. You wake up and you have a cup of coffee, but like, I mean, what do you think about every day? Like, what am I going to do next, or what am I going to, how many miles am I going to go run today?
No, honestly, you don't just like flip a switch and shut down a program like the one that we were running. So there's still a lot of work to do to kind of wind that down. Not only do we sail, but Mark Towell and I, my partner in this whole thing, like we run the entirety of the campaign. So we got a bunch of different businesses that run it, that require maintenance, and we got assets and containers, and for a while we had people until December. So we're still kind of winding things down and getting there, see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then starting to kind of think critically about what could be next. But we were really focused on the task at hand. I think in a lot of these campaigns, people get really focused on what's next, and they lose sight of the opportunity that they have in front of them. So it was kind of really important to us and the whole team to see this one through, do the best we can with the opportunity that we had in front of us, and then you do the best you can with that, and then the opportunities will come from there, versus kind of trying to choreograph or pre-feed what might be next.
So a lot of the pro teams at that level are truly already like they're halfway through the Southern Ocean, just plotting their next campaign, trying to figure out their paycheck.
Yeah, there's a bit of that, but you see that in kind of any sport. You know,
Yeah.
you see people, play differently on a contract year when they're going into free agency. You know, that whole thing. It exists certainly in sailing, but as kind of leaders of the team, we thought it was really important to focus wholeheartedly on what we had in front of us because we knew like every version of our future would be better if we capitalized on the opportunity that we had.
Yeah. And did you feel like this time that like you did? I mean, and it was said before the race, you had everything you could possibly had. You had the 11th hour, which is a good, strong foundation, on the finance side, I imagine. Mm-hmm. And you had the time and then whatever else that kind of happened to kind of give you that in a pretty stellar boat at the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the first time we went around the world, we didn't know what we didn't know, and in some ways that was a blessing, and although we were underfunded and kind of late to the show, it didn't really matter because we were just kind of getting our feet wet. Second time around, we were kind of trying to, capitalize on what we learned in the first campaign, but it was always, we were just a little late, a little behind, and, that showed throughout the course of that race. And, with 11th hour stepping up to the plate in this last go-round, we felt like, we had everything we needed, certainly, to succeed, but, life throws you curveballs, and we had the coronavirus right in the middle of our whole campaign, so we ended up kind of with a different boat than maybe we would have liked, just because the course actually changed. So we built a boat that we thought was going to go to China, into New Zealand, and the race ended up not going there because of the coronavirus and for totally different reasons. China, lots of COVID, New Zealand, no COVID. But yeah, we ended up designing our boat a little bit more close-winded for more reaching conditions, and it ended up being a lot more downwind. And we were planning on having probably the newest boat in the race, and with the delay in the race, we actually ended up having the second oldest boat in the race. So there was there's always complications, but the good teams figure out how to deal with them, and you kind of rise to the top.
So knowing that going into the race that you were kind of off design. How did you approach that problem solve that immediately before you left and deal with it as you went along?
Yeah, I mean the certain things you're married to, like the hull shape and kind of the weight of the boat and the bow profile and all that kind of stuff. But we definitely made some changes to the aero package and to the foils and systems here and systems there. So kind of always chipping away the areas that you think you're weak. Our philosophy from the beginning was that we didn't want to design a boat that was in any particular corner. So we didn't have a ton of work to do, but certainly there was more VMG downwind racing than we'd anticipated when the boat was on the drawing board.
How much does it cost to build one of these boats today?
It's a loaded question. About $8.5 million.
And that's a full campaign program with sales.
Yep, on the water. But not necessarily the good thing, but they retain their value because there is such a market for them. And our boat was pre-qualified for the Vendée Globe because it was built in this cycle. So it was actually high demand for our boat, given its track record, but also because of what it represented to the single-handed fleet in France. So it sold for about 75% of what we built it for.
Oh, sweet, well done.
Yeah.
So on the foil side of that, real quick, I don't want to go too deep in the technical, but the difference, the foil that you ended up going with, was that ideally really what you wanted, or was that a little bit compromised too?
Again, kind of a loaded question. We had two sets of foils, and one set actually delaminated when we were coming into Cape Town, so we actually had to put our backup foils on to head into the Southern Ocean, which was less than ideal, but we kind of overshot the landing with our first set. We made the biggest, most powerful foil that had ever been put on an Imoca 60, and we ended up actually having to kind of throttle it back from there. We were only really able to use 80% of what we'd kind of built and designed with the V1s. So the V2s ended up being a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more downwind oriented, a little lower drag, and obviously a little bit lighter because we didn't have as much shaft as we did with the first set.
When you say forgiving, what does that mean? I mean, is
forgiving?
It, yeah.
A little bit more tolerant, so I think a little bit draggier, but you're trying to sustain high speeds for long periods of time. So it's not about the instantaneous speed. It's not about how good can we make this thing look in the computer model. It's about kind of can you really sail to this? Can this function in a sea state? Does it stop and start well? So you end up with something that's probably less than perfect from a naval arc standpoint, but actually when you're using it, it's a little bit more user friendly. So that's kind of the blend of art and science. That's like the guys with the computers and the guys on the water talking to each other and figuring out, somewhere in the middle, what's going to work, and what's going to be kind of ideal for everybody.
Less time touching down, which is just impact loading everywhere and more consistent flight. But you're not flying. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can build speed quicker. You don't fall off the foil as often. So it's kind of about those high average. Maybe you don't see like the peak speeds that you would with something that's modeled perfectly in the computer. But in real life, you're going faster for longer.
Faster and longer. Do you get what is it like going faster for longer? Do you just sort of get in this zone of okay, the boat's humming, it's doing what it's supposed to do, and you just whatever, making brownies and do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways you get numb to it. When you look at the speedo and you're seeing a lot of 30s, you're just like, oh ho hum, this is an Amoco that's like part of just kind of flailing around the world. But depending upon the angle of sail, sometimes when you're doing those 30s, it's pretty uncomfortable, and you don't get numb to it, and you're just kind of holding on at that point. But the boats, when they're close-winded, they do a lot of banging, a lot of kind of flying wave to wave, and then downwind they do a lot of kind of stop-start. You'll be doing 30 down a wave, and you might come out of that wave doing 13. and then you're building again. So it's an experience. Certainly, it's been an evolution that's worked. Certainly within the class. I mean, you see 40 boats trying to do the Vendée Globe. But certainly, just like anything, if you could start from scratch, you probably wouldn't end up where we are now. So it's an evolution over time.
Yeah, it was, the first leg down, actually, this is one of my favorite part of the race. For those who follow, there was the old 65s, and then you guys basically sailing the same course through some pretty nasty stuff. And the videos coming off the boat were so incredibly sort of different. You guys were studying jibing angles and blah, 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 and they were just miserable. Like, just good old school suffering. And it's like, man, we got both styles of racing, and you kind of got to get through that suffering first to get to the level into the boats.
Yeah, I think suffering can look different. You're not outside in the elements, hanging onto the wheel, getting thrashed by waves, but going 30 knots, banging into every other wave, is pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you poll the group of sailors that have sailed both fleets, it's not totally clear. What platform they'd like to be on, or kind of how you'd like to go around the world.
Depends on the leg.
Yeah, for sure, the conditions.
But so in the computer game part of what you're doing, how much of it are you guys really sailing the boat versus letting the boat sail itself? And obviously we're into autopilots and talking to the laptops. How sophisticated is the boat that you currently have, or you sail around with?
It's sophisticated, but it still comes down to the sailors. I mean, I always think of Ed Adams. He says that sailing is 90% balance and power, and the rest is just details, and he's not wrong. With all the sophisticated software that we have on board, the difference of 22 knots and 25 knots can be an ease of this much on a speaker sheet. You know what I mean? So certainly, there are different inputs that you can put. But you have to set up and balance the boat for the pilot to drive. So, we've seen the French guys show up into the Anglo-Saxon Volvo world, whether it's in the 70s or the 65s, and last time I checked, they still did a pretty good job, in Dongfeng and Groupama. So these guys that use those autopilots, turns out they're pretty good sailors too, for sure.
So, it is an ocean marathon. Switch up for a second. So it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I was out watching my daughter do her first marathon, and I was at like mile 20 or something, and there goes Charlie Enright, just like chopping past. He's like, hey, how you doing? Like mile 20. I mean, you're just like, so you got ocean marathons, real marathons, and you're obviously wired to be like pain or misery or whatever it is. You're definitely wired a little bit differently. I mean, what is it about this misery that you think you have in you?
It's not that bad, Dave. It's we talked a little bit about my age at the beginning. I'm not yet 40, and I kind of wanted to do it before I was 40. And my wife's a big marathoner. We like type 2 fun in our family. And I was kind of riding her personal high in October when she qualified for Boston. And I somewhat inadvertently signed myself up for the marathon that you saw me running 2 weeks ago. And it was fun. I mean, I think from a philosophical standpoint, I just kept telling myself, like, it's only one wash. It's like 4 hours, you know, like, how hard can this thing be? But then also, you kind of tell yourself, like, God, lucky to just be outside running something like this, so you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you get that same headspace? I'm not a runner, obviously. I prefer.
Why do you say
running
obviously?
sucks?
Yeah.
But I mean, is it like a really? I mean, it's that same headspace though. Do you find it similar in some of these sort of longer?
Kind of like waking up at
things?
5:30 in the morning. You just get some alone time, you know. And you know, I did a lot of running during COVID, and kept going greater and greater distances because the alternative was going home, and you spent plenty of time at home. So it was fun. Yeah, I just enjoy it. Lucky to be able to do it.
Misery. So let's go back. Oh, actually, I know. Sorry, you didn't life in that misery. Anyway, so this. Let's go. Where do we go here?
You got props?
Oh yeah, we got props right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. You got a little boat work going on here, right?
That's a little
Yeah,
boat.
you recognize that guy. It's a great photo, by the way. This guy, Amory Ross, the team photographer.
Knows what he's doing.
All right, so let's put that there. We need a Sharpie at some point. We're going to get that away. All right, you guys get the point. So the Southern Ocean leg, I actually thought, they're fucked. Oh, sorry, they're done. This is the one that did them in. Like, to me, it was so fascinating. That's the beauty of having the onboard reporter because it was real and it was raw and we could see your suffering, but the fight to get through it was pretty amazing. So I've been actually wanted to ask you this question for a long time because your boat captain, Jack Patel, I've always had, I got kind of a man crush on him. I think he's just
Good man.
kind of a machine. And I was like, did you break him on that leg? Like, he just, next leg, he's like, not on the boat. I'm like, I was in a Jack. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a very difficult leg. I mean, we sailed a lot of miles and a lot of hours on this boat. Not a lot of them pre-race in competition, which is clearly a different animal, and not a lot of them in the Southern Ocean. So everything is tested in that part of the world, and we had our trials and tribulations for sure.
Let's run through them quick. What broke first?
Daggerboard downline, and that kind of. Well, actually, that's not even true. We did our last jive in the import race or the leaving course in Table Bay in 40 knots and broke 2 battens.
Yeah. That was a sucky way to start.
And we started by suspending racing for 2 hours, which was quite difficult to watch the fleet sail away over the horizon. But we had battens in the main, we had a downline, we had 2 rudders delaminate, we had structural delam in the bow, the autopilot surprise jibed in the middle of the night. We tore our mainsail. So it wasn't going great. And that leg actually had a scoring gate just south of Tasmania. And we thought about packing it in and just saying, hey, let's stop, fix everything, and then, just get the boat to Brazil and whatever. But we realized with that plan, we still had 7,000 miles to go, so who knows what was going to break after that. So we were like, all right, so we just need to, stay on the podium, do the best we can with what we got, and, when the frustration starts to come out, you really got to realize that, you're lucky to be there. You're lucky to be there doing it, and as crazy as it is, and as miserable as you make it sound, there's a laundry list of people that would switch places with you. So you got to do the best you can with the opportunity. And once the dust settles and you kind of vent, which I think is healthy, by the way, you're left with kind of 2 options, which is quit or get on with it. And we made the decision, to keep going. And we knew that if the race was going to end the way we wanted it to end, every single point was going to be important. And we fought to get a 3rd place into Brazil, and it kind of saved our race and set the tone for the rest of the lap.
Changed the whole dynamic of the race, you would say.
Definitely. I mean, some of the rotation that we did is, with the crew was planned, and some of it was left a little loose depending upon how things went. And Jack was fried, certainly from the Southern Ocean leg, and he put his hand up about 3/4 of the way across, and he's like, I don't think I'm going to be doing the next leg. I think, I've been calling other people for 3 days, So
I'm good. I'm with you, brother.
He's the man. He's such a great sailor. He's done a great job helping Sam Davies, who's I think in 3rd place right now in her transatlantic race. Former winner of the race with Dong Feng. Just a great guy.
Yeah, worth noting. It's kind of not publicized, but they're all 60s coming across to New York. They'll be there the first 2 weeks of May. Most of them hanging around.
It's the biggest secret in sailing. There's 31 Amocas sailing from France to New York City right now, and I think there'll be 3 or 4 more in what they call the New York Vendée, which starts in New York and goes back to France, which is the last single-handed race really before the Vendée Globe, which is pretty cool.
So the coolest 60-footers on the planet are all going to be in New York next week?
Or Newport.
Yeah.
I think 10 or 12 are going to keep
right.
coming to Newport for maintenance. There's about 3 weeks between the finish and the start of the next race, so cool times.
That's cool. But so back to Jack just real quick. I mean, like just the art of boat maintenance when it's going that bad. I mean, you got the tools, and it's just trying to figure out like how do you pace the repairs, and by trying to stay, and pacing with the weather system, you're trying to be with just balancing this, preserving, fixing the boat, and racing as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, every situation is unique, so you got to kind of analyze each one as it arises. But certainly some repairs can be done in all conditions. Other repairs can only be done in more benign conditions. You talk about which direction are you pointing when you're doing that repair? How fast are you able to safely sail the boat when you're doing that repair?
Yeah.
So it all comes into play, for sure.
What's the hardest thing to repair? What was the most difficult fix of the entire race?
I'd say the mainsail. Like when we jibed and the mainsail broke on the Lazy Jacks, sailmaking now is kind of like boat building. So it's all glue, it's all composite. There's no thread, there's no sewing machines, there's no hand stitching unless it comes to that. So at the end of that leg, it was us and Biotherm coming into the finish for third place, and they had no foil and we had no mainsail. And it was like a knife fight with spoons, basically. And I know boats that have gotten third place in races with no foils, but I don't know any boats that have gotten third place in races with no mainsail. So
It's got to be one person here. Too.
we did some routing and realized that if we fixed the mainsail the way that we wanted to, with glue, it was going to take, because of the surface area that we had to work with, 3 different cure times. And if that actually transpired, we were going to lose to them. So we had to kind of change the plan, and we ended up cutting up a bunch of sailbags and actually hand stitching the webbings from the sailbags onto the mainsail so that it could be in one piece and we could finish the leg. So
Use what you got.
yeah, exactly. And actually coming into the finish, we had 5 jibes into the finish, and we actually we ended up tacking. We actually ended up furling the downwind sail and tacking around, because it was, if one jibe with the battens broke the mainsail, we knew that was going to be the difference. So it was just really
It's like chicken jiving.
exactly, just taking it as easy as possible.
There was a sort of a quick speed up to the race. Obviously, the race, the leg to Newport. You're the hometown favorite. You had to do it. It was like there's no way you're going to lose that leg anyway. So nice job winning it. But that to me, as those who follow the trajectory of the race, was the start of the beginning of the end for you in terms of taking ownership of the race and holding it from there. And it was interesting. There was the inside politics of the race. Through those who follow it, there's sort of an implosion inside Holcim PRB. There's disruption in the overall vibe of the team, right? And then all of a sudden, things switch. This is about being sustainable and being a good team through the start to finish, right? But what do you feel like? How did you take that switch and make sure that you were true to it?
Yeah, I think for a host of reasons, the race wasn't going the way that we wanted it to go when we got to Brazil, and some of that was us not sailing well. Part of it was the conditions not being suited to the boat that we designed. Part of it was the breakdowns that we experienced in the Southern Ocean. But when we were not compromised and we were sailing with the fleet, we were sailing well. So we never lost confidence and we never lost hope. But we definitely had a come to Jesus moment, if you will, in Brazil as a team. And I think that was really when we decided it was our race to win. And, at that point, a lot of people had written us off and there wasn't a lot of pressure. And we came out firing, and we still had a lot of fire in our respective bellies, and we won the import race in Brazil, and then the next leg into Newport after 17 lead changes or something like that with Malizia, and then the next 2-3 legs after that. So that really was the inflection point.
What was that? Can you Give us a little inside that come to Jesus meeting. What does that mean for you? I mean, you guys are pro team. You got all the money in line. When you like, do you just be honest with them? Be like, I suck. I'll do. What does that mean in this world of high level best people on the boat?
No, I think it creates a sense of urgency, you know what I mean? And so I think without that sense of urgency, maybe you're not focusing on the right things, or you're afraid to bring this up, or you're afraid to bring that up, or you saw it with Oracle in the America's Cup in 2013, you know what I mean? I mean, they threw it all out and started again. And, they said, we've always been worried about this, we've always been worried about that. And they came out and they were flailing upwind, and the rest is history. I mean, it was a little bit the same with us.
Yeah.
This isn't working, that is working, how can we tighten this up, how can we do a better job? And, everybody bought into that. I'm not saying it was like a call-out culture or anything like that, but, everybody really rallied around the cause, and it was going to be then or it wasn't going to happen.
What was the change for you? What was, if everybody had a, good, better, best, or what was your thing to change to go into the second half of the race then for you personally? Your own come to Jesus.
Yeah, I think I grew throughout the course of the race as a leader, I think. I've always had a little bit of an issue with kind of trying to be everybody's friend and being nice and, this and that. And I didn't always get it done, so I had to make some hard decisions and, around, assets and personnel. And, I think we saw, an improvement in the team all around. And, what is good for team culture is winning. It's like one of those.
How do you spell fun?
Yeah, W-I-N. I mean, it's one of those, chicken egg type things. And, I realized that, you're always going to piss somebody off, but if it's in the best interest of the team, then it's a decision that you gotta make.
Yeah. Talk about leadership. I'm sure everybody saw the footage from the fatal leg in the collision, which you probably you've probably talked to death. And told the story. But that I mean, as a watcher of the race, to me that was an amazing leadership moment too. It's like you're definitely you're 39 years old, but you're acting like a very sophisticated 60-year-old wise guy. Yeah. I mean, that was, wow. But so what? I mean, the fast run of that experience of going through getting taken out, and then this finishing and the jury decision.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild. I mean, to think that you're gonna go around the world unscathed is naive. And all of these races are different. They all have their own scripts. This one seemed particularly crazy. And never in a million years would I have envisioned anything like that happening. But you do this long enough, and crazy stuff does happen. And you can talk about visibility, sure. For me, it's a little bit more about situational awareness. I mean, there's like 5 boats, we're on the starboard line, but accidents happen. And you do it long enough, you can be on either end of it. And as difficult as it was for us, imagine how they felt. I mean, there was no question as to kind of what occurred. I mean, it was a mistake, and they're good guys, and I mean the storylines are like innumerable. Like that was our old boat,
Right.
To get back into the race, we sold them our spare mast, and actually the tactician on that boat was the guy who ended up buying our existing boat. So I mean, it was totally crazy.
Yeah, and it's a tight community too. Right?
For sure, and you know what? I mean, the way that we were sailing, having won the 3 previous legs, it was going to, we thought at least, at that point we felt like we had superpowers. It was going to take something crazy like that to derail us, and sometimes you gotta just roll with the punches, and talk about a roller coaster. I mean, if Brazil was the perceived low, I mean that was pretty tough, and for the people on the boat, it was. I'm lucky to be here. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen the footage.
Yeah.
Lucky to be here, and for the shore team, it was. They're like, we're gonna have to work in shifts around the clock, to get the. I'm like, sounds a lot like what we do offshore, but those guys did.
Welcome to our world.
Amazing work. I mean, even just I can't give them enough credit, but even just stocking the containers with enough material to fix something like that was mind blowing. I mean, they did such a good job and really rallied around it, and got us in a position to get the boat to Genoa, and then, we won the final import race to kind of put a stamp on it, and that just made everybody that tried so hard for so long feel vindicated.
Yeah. Nicely done. There you go.
Yeah. Well, clap for the people that did the work, because it was no small feat to get that boat back.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you have a sense of the jury? Was it inevitable? Do you feel pretty confident, or were you like truly? I have no idea. It's gonna play out.
Absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah.
No clue. And actually, that was a really strong moment for the partnership that Mark and I have developed over the course of a decade, because I was on the boat delivering it for all intents and purposes to Genoa, and Mark was the one that represented the team in the room. And over 10 years, our relationship has strengthened, but there's been, job specificity, and, we've had to change based on the scale of the operation that we're now running. And, it was great to be able to see him kind of organize that side of things while I was organizing the technical side of things, and it all kind of came good.
Yeah. I guess we can't have a conversation without a big shout out to Mark too.
No, I mean,
So,
obviously.
it was always like Mark and Charlie.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. Definitely.
So the program, before we move off the ocean race, sorry. One question. Anybody has the burning ocean race question? I think there's one in the back. Go.
Charlie, can you talk a little bit about why it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get Americans to do things like mini transat and the Class 40 events?
Here, you want to take that one? No, I think, in France, where they have, the I in IMOCA is for international, but I mean, let's call it spade a spade. There's 40 of these things in Brittany, not only just in France, but in a very small corner of France. And you got like the Bloods and the Crips, and there's some in Port-la-Forêt, and there's some in Lorient. But, they have this pathway, and starts with the mini transat, it starts with the Figaro, it's the Class 40, it's the IMOCA, and then if you're crazy enough, you can sail a 100-foot trimaran around the world by yourself if you want. Like it's amazing, it's aspirational, it's clear what to do. And in the States, it's not as clear. And I think we have a lot of different organizations working in silos, kind of. You get like pockets of boats here doing something great and pockets of boats there doing something great. And I think if there was a way to bring all of the good that's happening together and to centralize it, I think part of it is because we have a big country, not to get into it, but I think, that makes some of the Olympic stuff hard, and, geographically we're large, we have seasonal issues, but guess what? So does Brittany. I've been there this time of year. It ain't great, so that's not an excuse, but, I think we just got to do a better job working together. I mean, I think the fact that sailing is a bit more commercially viable in a place like France is a big deal. You open the front page of the newspaper in Paris and it's all about the Vendée Globe. That's just not the case here. So it's different, but I think that with the right resource and the right minds kind of thinking about how to solve for it, the sky's really the limit. I mean, there's no reason we couldn't do it if it became a priority for the right people.
So on the one quick thing on the tech side, and then we'll speed up. But I want to go back to the autopilots a little bit, because we were talking with somebody about I watched this great show with the guy from NVIDIA the other day about AI, and I'm an old man. I'm like to say I think it's scary, right? But like at AI and autopilots, is there discussion of that about like really sort of being able to anticipate?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the fear is always cost. Everybody's always scared about somebody's going to come in and throw money at this problem and change the game, and we're never going to stand a chance. But it's more, in my opinion, about time. Certainly, money has the ability to buy you time, but really, time is always the scarcest resource. And you look at American Magic, and they were trying to have their computer fly the boat, and first thing it would do was like crash, and then have this massive financial repercussion. They're like, all right, we're not trying the autopilot anymore. You know what I mean? So really time to dedicate to that, I think is the biggest thing. But with our autopilot, we had a simple B&G like you'd have on your Sunsail catamaran and the BVIs. You got true wind angle, apparent wind angle, and compass mode. But then we have a suite of software that sits over that, and you can add other parameters like heel, boat speed, another apparent wind function, and it's not that simple because you can say, I want you to push this far, and when I want you to push that far, I want you to do it this slowly or this quickly, or I want you to search between, 5 degrees of true wind angle or 3 degrees of true wind angle. I want you to be able to search down 1, up 5 because we keep falling off this wave. So there's a lot of inputs that the human has to get their head around to balance the boat and make sure it's sailing optimally. It's not like the George Foreman set it and forget it type deal. It's it takes a lot from the guy sitting in the bubble sailing the boat.
So you're in the bubble. It's a bit Hound-like though, where you just got this thing chirping over you like down 1, Charlie, down 1, down 2, Charlie. Yeah,
well,
you the whole
we
time.
call it. Well, no, it's not like that. But we do call it like Game Boying, because even like when you set it perfectly in some conditions, sometimes if you just steer, with your up two when you're slow, something like that, downwind, the boat responds quite quickly, and just having the human play it like that is a competitive advantage.
In touch with the boat. You're at the high level. You've done some J class sailing. There's a little bit of post retirement, like
Totally different.
So you hop on a
40 years old. I'm on the senior
J class. Yeah, exactly. You're too old for that, man. I mean, too young. You get on a boat with like 80 dudes on it anyway. But I mean, what are they like? All right, Charlie, you're doing runner today.
Yeah, exactly. I got asked to do the St. Bart's bucket on a J class boat, and showed up, and it was fun, and totally different, obviously, than anything that I was kind of doing for the last 5 years, but with a lot of people that I've sailed a lot of miles with, and some of which are actually in this room.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great. I mean, it's cool. I mean, the power, the loads, it's really amazing.
Yeah, I do hope that at some point we do it'll eventually happen back to the J class for the America's Cup. I always thought it'd be like how still amazing they are, even to somebody like you who's sailed pretty wicked boats you get on. These things are beautiful machines.
Yeah, I mean, you got to appreciate everything for what it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, for sure. We're talking about the J classes that are existing in racing now, hopefully 100 years from now.
Right. So. And so now you're tied with the Wizards, right? What's your ORC plans? You're on a 52. What's paying the bills on the side?
The 52 stuff in the States is healthy. It's a little strange this year because there's this Great Lakes fleet which has kind of been building and is quite strong, but you also have the ORC Worlds in Newport, so you kind of have 2 different fleets sailing a bit in parallel. But hopefully next year when they're all together doing the same thing, there's like 12, 52s on a starting line here in the States, which is pretty exciting. Yeah,
look, it's good fun racing. What's your role on my team? You join. What do they say? All right, Charlie, you're running what? These are already pretty polished programs.
Yeah, the guy I'm sailing with the Wizard program this year. The Askew brothers, David and Peter, who hail from this part of the world, and they had a Volvo 70 prior to this that I helped them out with, and I guess Record Pew 74 that I helped them out with before that.
Yeah. So it's a transatlantic win on that.
Very long-standing relationship, and this is a new game for us doing the inshore thing, but. I think one of the cool things about the ORC Worlds is that it is inshore and offshore. So there's 2 distance races. So I kind of look after the entirety of the project in terms of the rating, the development, the crew, some of the logistical stuff. So yeah.
Is that almost a full-time job? I mean, to run a top-end program like that these days?
Yeah, for sure. Let's put it this way: there's not a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about it. That's for sure.
And where do you make the gains in that fleet today? What's the low-hanging fruit?
Honestly, we haven't really sailed very much.
Where do you hope? Where can you start?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, for us right now, it's about exploration. The goal is the Worlds. We got a good proven boat. We got a good group of sailors. We're new to the fleet, but until we make any revolutionary changes. We just want to go sailing and get some data, and then kind of go from there. But I think there's a lot, in the rating for sure. But I think the best sailors always win. So the best sailors come up with the best ideas, and they're pushing in the right directions. And so we got a good group of people, and although we're a couple seasons behind, I don't see why we couldn't catch up pretty quick.
how far? I mean, when a couple seasons in these boats can be a lot, though. Now. I mean,
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's we got a lot of guys with a lot of 52 miles certainly on board to kind of help us catch up. But it's a newer game for some of the team. But I trust our ability to do it.
well, I think one time we were talking. It's been back in the hood. I think you mentioned that some of these things that you're doing right are you feeling a little bit like just kicking the can down the road. For you personally, I mean, like there's something greater on your horizon. You've done, you conquered the ocean race. You got to the tops. Is there something bigger calling to you? Is it, all team something? What's...
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. Like I said, we've been kind of winding things down and just now starting to think a little bit more critically about the future. But we've worked pretty hard to get to where we are over the course of the last 10 years, and pretty determined to go up from here. We don't want the next step to be a regression, but that said, I think you got to stay true to your roots, and some of the sailing that I've been doing this year has been great. Different certainly than what I've been doing for the last 5 years, but you can always learn something about whatever you're doing next in any class, which I think is important.
Yeah. I wrote recently too, because this is just my opinion. I would want to talk about this a little bit. That sailing for me right now, I hate when I hear the negativity, because I'm a very positive guy, but sailing is what I said really cool right now. It's just like between the great things that's happening with the women, it's like it's there. Foiling and the fun, the diversity, the one design classes that we have here are strong, and that's how I see it. But I mean, you guys get to see it from the top. What's your assessment of, I guess, sailing in this country, but then sailing as a whole? Have you seen it as you've gone around the world?
That is a crazy question, but I do agree with you that sailing is changing, and in my opinion, for the better. I think it's becoming more inclusive. I think it's headed in a technologically advanced direction, which I think is cool. I think some people fear it, but like if we didn't change, we'd be riding horse and buggies. So like don't fear change. Like foiling is just like a car, 100 years ago. But yeah, I think the mixed crew stuff is great. We were able to have that in the last 2 editions of the Ocean Race, which is great. I certainly commend the Quantum Racing American Magic program for what they've done. It used to be that the average age of the TP52 Super Series fleet got 1 year older every year. And now I think we're seeing that change, which is great. I mean, those guys are I think they got second in Palma.
Yeah.
I think Victor, who's sat in this seat earlier in the piece, is killing it. He did a great job there. He's trimming the wing for the Sail GP team. So I think the future is bright. I mean, I think you can be a pessimist if you want, but that doesn't really get you anywhere. I think there's a lot of bright spots. It's just telling the good stories. Why do we need to tell the bad stories? Really, I think there's a lot going on. We got to focus on the good and see how we can develop more of that, and learn from the bad. I mean, you can't sweep it under the rug. You can't avoid it. But okay, that didn't work. What can we do better, and move on from there?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's been nagging at me. So this the true highlight of the Ocean Race experience that you had over the last year. All the misery aside, is there, now that you think back on it, like what was the one magic moment for you in that race where it's just like, man, I love what I'm doing right now?
It was probably close to a year ago today. Probably finishing, the leg into Newport. Growing up, this race was always a dream for me. Been very lucky to do it in additions that stop in Newport, Rhode Island, where I grew up sailing, and to win that leg into Narragansett Bay was absolutely incredible, and to do it, in a 20-knot sea breeze on a bright, sunny May day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon with, whatever it was, thousands of my closest friends, was wild, and it ended up being kind of the turning point in the race. So all the better. But that for me was like the euphoric, wow, we're really lucky. And I remember doing a a pro-am of all things, which aren't always the funnest days on the water.
Yeah, pretty stressful, aren't they?
But, we're doing 30 knots in flat water across Narragansett Bay, and it's been closed for the day to commercial traffic so that we can rip around with a bunch of our buddies, Like, it's pretty special.
You don't get to do that often, do you?
No, it's amazing. It's pretty cool.
So if you were to race here in Annapolis, we've got a lot of good fleets, and you actually now have to buy your own boat, spend your own money on your own boat. What are the fleets here would you want to get into? At some point you got to go back to your one-design racer.
We got piles of boats. We got like a 40-foot cruising boat, and my wife's got like a Herreshoff Bullseye. So we got some boats. But if I was going to sail this regatta, I'd probably want to do it on a Viper.
Ooh.
Maybe Viper 640.
All right.
I've always had visions of being able to sail that with my wife, and then maybe getting some like college sailing kids to like drag it around and help us out and look after the kids and have one hop on board or something like that. But that boat always appealed to me.
There you go. All right, so we'll find the Viper guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So some quick advice for the people here. We'll wrap it up by 8 and get it done. And so you've won plenty of regattas in your life. Here in Annapolis, you've done a bunch. How do you, if you were sailing this weekend, how would you approach it, and how not to lose a regatta in Annapolis?
How not to lose?
Mm-hmm. Because only one boat wins.
Yeah. Well, Dick Neville talked about it. I mean, hopefully 3 days of racing, so that's good. But it isn't unusual to get skunked on a day here. So I think Annapolis can be a very one-sided race course. You got to get that side right. But it's tough to go all in because sometimes you get like a 5-race regatta and there's no drop, and the difference between the overall can be like the team that ended up mid-fleet instead of last in the race that went inside out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think always a fan of playing the percentages. I know the current can be a big thing here. But really, it can be a pretty fluky and difficult place to sail. Actually, the last time I was here, we was sailing this regatta 10 years ago.
And how'd you do?
We won.
There you go.
Which, nice plug. Thanks for that. But yeah, it was, in that regatta, like it is all regattas, like it is with the foils. It's about the high averages. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
as much as you want to lay it on the line in a place like this, if you're not a local, and even locals struggle here sometimes, nobody ever knows 100%. So always think about what's going to be the best thing for the long run.
Don't cough it up.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Q&A? Anybody? Front row? Back row?
No
Awesome.
row?
I think.
Oh. Say again?
How big is your crew?
In the Round the World race, we were 5 on board, 4 sailors, yep, and onboard reporter. Yep. To tell the story and take wonderful pictures.
He's amazing. God bless him.
I've spent more time with Amory in the last 5 years than I have my wife.
Does she remind you of that?
No. There's-
Yeah, go.
What's
We're
the
fun.
first event you ever did with Amo? And what, like?
First event with Amo?
Yeah.
Actually, I did the 2010 Bermuda race on a 90-footer with Amory.
Genuine risk?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Which was great. And he took a bunch of content that was
Amazing.
Yeah. It was really cool. It was a good year. But yeah, 2010. So we've been sailing together for 15 years.
So just for enjoyment, if you had to do the ocean race again, would you rather do it in a foiling boat or a non-foiling?
Foiling boat.
Is that much more fun?
Yeah, for sure. I think for all the days that you're like, bashing into waves, when you get those kind of pack powder, corduroy conditions, it's like, it's unbelievable. The boat's totally lively, and you're doing 30+ knots, and you're like, this is what sailing's all
Making
about.
brownies.
Yeah. It's great. It's cool.
Obviously, right now, the Mocha is like a pretty rough and uncomfortable boat to sail. What's your thought on like adding toys to the rudder, like changing the class?
Yeah, there's a big thing in the Imoca class about adding an elevator. I mean, nobody, flies around without a tail fin. You know what I mean? So the whole boat is balanced on the one foil. which makes it pretty tricky. So there is a thought that, adding an elevator to the rudder would kind of help magically fix everything, like a silver bullet. But I mean, it's sure maybe in like the route to Rum or something like that when you're kind of into and out of the tropics or what have you. But like in the Southern Ocean, which is what these boats are built for, previously the Vendée Globe every 4 years, but now the Vendée Globe every 4 years and the Ocean Race every offsetting 4 years. You're just not going to do that. You're throttling back from there anyway, and you already kind of have the haves and the have-nots with the foilers and the non-foilers. So I think the class is progressing on the right trajectory, and they've chosen to push that off at least another 4 years. I think that's probably right, but it's coming, for sure.
Will there be another ocean race?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I think. This last edition was a kind of proof of concept. It was the marriage between the ocean race world and the IMOCA world, and I think there were a lot of people sitting in Brittany that looked on somewhat enviously. And now the chatter there is that if you want to win the Vendée Globe, the ocean race is a good proving ground. We talk about the Vendée every 4 years. I mean, if you can learn something every 2 years, why the hell wouldn't you?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think everybody's bought in. I think there's a lot of demand, which is great. I mean, for me, it's is it just going to turn into another a crude race, if you will, on the French calendar? Is it just going to be another IMOCA event, or is it going to kind of stick to its Anglo-Saxon roots? And are you going to be able to build a boat and have a campaign in Newport? Are you going to be able to build a camper and have Team New Zealand and trained in Auckland? Are you going to have a Spanish team? Are you going to have a Dutch team? Or is it just going to be this, Franco, whatever it is? You know what I mean? So, that remains the question for me. But I think the future of the race is bright for sure. I think there's already 15 teams signed up for the Ocean Race Europe in 25. Certainly, the full round the world race is a bit more to bite off than just a race around Europe, but I think demand is strong.
Yeah, but that ocean race feeder race just keeps the crew pool growing and
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
good VIP and good hospitality, good branding, all.
Yep, most definitely, and it slots into the IMOCA calendar well, and I think for teams that don't have the funding to do the ocean race but are doing the Vendée Globe, when their boat's in the shed for the winter in Brittany, why wouldn't you want to go sailing? You know what I mean? From Cape Town to Melbourne or whatever the course ends up being. It's an opportunity to learn while your boat's in the shed being modified. And I think the future of the race is quite bright. Could be wrong, been wrong before. But certainly, if you just kind of listen to the chatter, I think it's in a good spot.
And who do you got your money on for the cup?
For the cup?
Yeah.
My heart or my head?
Yeah, your money.
Yeah, my money.
Yeah. I guess that's dependent. Where's your money connected? Yeah.
I think it's the Kiwis have a leg up. I think it's just part of being the defender. I think the what they were able to give and share with all the other teams in the form of the AC40. I think some of this, wow, it's a lot better than what we got. I mean, like I think that'd be a logical place to start. But I think if any of the challengers has a chance to dethrone them, it's got to be American Magic, and I give those guys all the credit in the world, for sure.
We've all had a quick look at the boats. Is there one that you're like, wow, that thing's a weapon?
I don't know. Tough to say. I don't know if it's just because they're Italian, but like they always look slick. Prada's package always looks pretty slick. The Ineos looks like, okay, this could work or it won't.
Yeah, that's kind of their problem all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the world of like all the teams, who knows, the French team, they signed up for the Team New Zealand design package, so they could end up just with the second best boat, like who knows? But yeah, I think when they lift up the kimonos and they get out on the water and they go sailing, we'll know a lot more. But certainly I hope the American Magic guys, can pull it off.
Can you get over there and be part of it at all, or so you get too distracted with the other stuff?
No, I mean, who knows? I mean, I spent a lot of time with Tom at the World Sailing Awards, Tom Slingsby in Malaga, and it's funny because it's two different worlds, but a lot of like foiling's foiling, foils are foils, cavitation's cavitation, and you know we had some pretty good conversations. So
Running big, giant, complex programs is kind of the same.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like we talked about, you know, whether it's the Cup or it's the Ocean Race or it's, you know, this regatta here in Annapolis, you know, the sailors make the decision, the culture is important. So, you know, you can't just say, oh, the naval architect, this boat, you know, like if the sailors didn't have a say in what that boat looked like, I mean, how's your campaign actually set up, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a lot of layers to it all, and those guys seem like they're on a great track, and, you know, I certainly wish them all the best.
Cool. All right, questions, go. Last chance, last round. Okay, last one.
So, in terms of like being involved in the ocean race and specifically all the content that came from it, how do you think that's influencing the next generation of IMOCAs?
The content.
Yeah, like what people could see, is that influencing the design?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at the content from the Vendée Globe, it's, you know, random sailor person with a iPhone selfie video. You know what I mean? And you know, I think the ocean race content blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing more races in France with onboard reporters, which I think is great. You know, certainly for us, like the drone footage, you know, as much as it's great to look at on the internet and put to music and make a reel out of, like for us, it became a real performance tool. So we'd have Amory get it up during the race, you know, pretty frequently. Yeah, hopefully it's set a new bar, you know, for what people are capable of capturing offshore. And yeah, I think it's changed the game.
Starlink hookups, and Colbrower did it, so yeah.
Yeah, Starlink is pretty wild.
Watch Facebook, Cape Horn.
After crossing oceans and going around capes, is it ever boring to just sail in your hands?
No. I mean, after the race last year, I did a ton of cruising with my family, and it can be just as much about the journey as it can be the destination. You know, sometimes it's cool to go 6 knots. You know, and no problem with that.
Do you still look at BMG?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yes, you know.
Yeah, and sometimes it's okay to turn the engine. Yeah, that's okay too.
Best VMG in cruising.
Yeah, the Iron Genoa.
Yeah.
But no, we've had a lot of fun with our family, just kind of cruising around, and you know, it's all about the objective and the expectation. So for sure.
Cool. All right, so I guess there's a raffle thing, real quick. Where's Sarah? Under your chair, there's a ticket, a golden ticket of some sort, that you win a bunch of gear. Gotta take it back.
All right. We got a couple.
Who's got it? You got it? All right, good. I hope there's only one ticket, because wait, there's more. There's multiple. All right, ready?
What's the number?
What's that?
That's yours.
No, this is for Charlie?
Yeah.
Kids, yeah. We got some stuff here. These are our kids' stuff. Who's the youngest one here? Who's still in college? You want to hang this in your gun dorm room?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes? All right, this is yours, but we got to get before you leave, you got to autograph it.
Sure.
This is going to be an e-signature edition. This is the only thing that exists on the planet
Nice.
like this. All right, you good? We need, where's the Sharpie? Figure it out.
Good sailors, no Sharpies.
All right, I don't know what the deal with the raffle. See Sarah, it was her idea.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think we're done, so.
You can just do, like, raffle winner number 1 can go up and pick what they want.
What do they get to pick? Is anything off the table here?
Yeah.
Because all I see here is baby hair.
Hey, we'll square up on this after the fact.
Yeah. All right, thank you, brother.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Take care, guys.